Imagine a man so wealthy that when he traveled, entire cities felt it, markets collapsed, prices skyrocketed, and economies struggled to recover for years. Now imagine this. There is no exact number for his wealth, no bank record, no final calculation. Because what he owned was beyond counting. His name was Mansa Musa, the emperor of the Mali Empire. And for centuries, he has been called the richest man in history. But is that actually true, or is it a story that has grown bigger with time? Today on History Hub Fact, we go beyond the legend to uncover the truth, to understand Mansa Musa's wealth. You first need to understand his world. The Mali Empire wasn't just powerful. It was strategically positioned. It sat right in the middle of some of the most important trade routes in the world. Caravans crossed the Sahara Desert carrying gold from West Africa, salt from the north, textiles, spices, and ideas from distant lands. And here's the key detail most people overlook. Gold at the time was not just valuable, it was essential. Empires depended on it. Currencies were tied to it. And Mali controlled an enormous share of it. Some historical accounts suggest that the empire produced over half of the world's gold supply during the 14th century. That's not just wealth, that's control over the global economy. When Mansa Musa became ruler around 1312, he didn't start from nothing. He inherited an empire already rich. But he expanded it. Under his leadership, Mali grew in size, influence, and economic dominance. Cities flourished. Trade increased, and gold continued to flow, but wealth alone doesn't create a legend. What happened next did. In 1324, Mansa Musa made a decision that would make him famous across continents. He would travel to Mecca on pilgrimage, known as the Hajj. For many rulers, this would have been a quiet, spiritual journey, but not for Mansa Musa. This was something else entirely. Imagine a caravan stretching for miles. Tens of thousands of people, soldiers, servants, officials, all moving together across the desert, camels, hundreds of them. Each carrying gold, not small amounts, but loads so heavy they defined the journey. And as they moved through cities, Mansa Musa gave gold away, freely, constantly, to the poor, to traders, to leaders. At first, people were amazed, but then something unexpected happened. When he reached Cairo, his generosity triggered a crisis. There was suddenly too much gold in circulation. Its value dropped, prices increased, and inflation spread through the economy. Historians believe this impact lasted for over a decade. Think about that. One man, one journey changed the economic stability of an entire region. There are very few people in history you can say that about. But here's the twist. Some historians believe this wasn't accidental. It may have been a calculated display of power. A message to the world, this is how much I have. When Mansa Musa returned home, he didn't just continue ruling. He began building something greater, a legacy. He invested heavily in cities, especially Timbuktu. At the time, Timbuktu was already growing, but under Mansa Musa, it transformed. Mosques were built, including the famous Jingerbir Mosque. Schools and universities were established. Scholars from across Africa and the Islamic world came to study and teach. Books were collected. Knowledge was preserved. At one point, owning books in Timbuktu was considered a sign of wealth, even more valuable than gold. Let that sink in. In an empire known for gold, knowledge became the true currency. Mansa Musa wasn't just building structures. He was building influence, cultural, religious, intellectual, and that influence would last long after his death. Now we return to the big question, was Mansa Musa truly the richest man in history? To answer that, we need to be careful, because comparing wealth across time is complicated. Today, we measure wealth in dollars. We look at net worth, stocks, assets, companies, People like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos have wealth that can be calculated. But Mansa Musa, his wealth wasn't stored in numbers. It was in land. Resources. Control. He didn't just own gold, he controlled its supply. And when you control supply, you control value. Some estimates try to place his wealth in today's terms, suggesting it could reach into the trillions. But the truth is, we can't measure it accurately. Because his power wasn't just financial. It was economic influence on a global scale. So instead of asking, was he the richest, a better question might be, was anyone ever as economically powerful as Mansa Musa? And that answer is much harder to challenge. Over time, stories about Mansa Musa have grown. Some accounts may be exaggerated, details may have changed, but the core truth remains strong. He was real, his journey happened, and his impact was undeniable. In fact, European maps from the 14th century began to include him, often depicting him holding a piece of gold. That's how far his reputation spread. Across continents, across cultures, across time. So, was Mansa Musa truly the richest man in history? Maybe. Maybe not. But one thing is certain, he was one of the most powerful figures the world has ever seen. And his story still echoes today. If you enjoyed this journey into history, subscribe to History Hub Fact for more untold stories. And in the comments, tell me this: if Mansa Musa lived today, how rich do you think he would be?